Hello and welcome to the EUphoria podcast. This is the second episode of our MSI coverage. I am Drakos, spitter of bars, maker of bad takes. With me is my cohort Caedrel, mister of playoffs and master of analysis.
Dude, why you gotta do me like that every single intro, man?
Did you make playoffs yet?
I did as a sub as HUK 2018 spring when I was on the bench. They made playoffs, so I technically, I did. Yeah.
Bro, you're a professional caster now, so you have made playoffs. That's the thing. If you want to, like, that's the difference, you know? My producer's shaking his head. The H2K thing doesn't count.
Doesn't count?
Let us know in the comments. Does making playoffs as a sub count for Caedrel?
For Caedrel. I think it does. Well, no, it does.
It might, maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Regardless, we're available.
The meme's never going to die anyway.
I think we're going to find new memes as you cast. We're going to find new things. Because we said illegal too much when you first split that you casted. We murdered that. Now it's you missed playoffs. We're murdering that. We take one meme at a time and just run them into the ground.
There's just a train of memes and it just doesn't stop.
Yeah. If you're invested right now in the missing of playoffs meme, it's the time to sell. You missed it already, so you might as well hold because it's at an all-time low.
Wait for the stonks.
Wait for the stonks. This podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. If you're listening on one of those platforms and you would prefer a different one, feel free to swap over now. If you're just joining us, we are in the midst of MSI. Stage 1 just wrapped yesterday. Stage 1 essentially replacing the plans it was initially supposed to be. 3 groups of 4 turned into 1 group of 3 and 2 groups of 4 as the VCS was unable to attend. But it was a really, really wild stage. We've now said goodbye to 6 teams, and we're moving in to stage 2, the Rumble stage. This is the more traditional MSI Group Stage as you know it, 1 group of 6. Double best of 1 round robin. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy. Caedrel, this was a wild first stage. What were your moment? Like what stood out the most to you? What was the craziest moment of this group stage?
A lot of things stood out to me. The first one was like C9 bombing out on the first couple of best of ones, and looking very, very shaky, losing to the FM. It really looked horror for them. I think that when you came into this round 1, I think there was a clear favorite top 2 in every group. The only one who upset, I would say, is Group A, where UOL actually just got knocked out by Pentanet in a best of 5 over like a couple days, 3 days.
Yeah, the extended best of 5 with some losses to RNG in between.
Yeah, no, just some like it's just a straight best of 5 just getting murdered by RNG at the same time. But yeah, they won out on that best of 5. They're the biggest surprise to me coming into the second round. I don't know how well they'll do in the second round. I think they might get a bit stomped, but the fact they made it, that's just impressive, I think.
I mean, it's such a cool story for Pentanet, right? And for Pentanet, I'm excited we get to see them more. I'm excited for the LCO and for the Oceanic region. It's so cool that they've made it that far. Of course, we're going to be talking a lot, we're going to talk about all the teams that have made it today. We'll talk a little bit about the teams who have left when we review our tier list later in the day. But overall, it's going to be interesting. Mad Lions will still be a big part of our focus because we do have a special interview with Kaiser after he finished his group stage games. After Mad Lions made it out 5-1, Laure took the time to sit down and talk with him. Really excited. We haven't seen that interview yet. I'm really excited to see what he had to say because there are question marks around the Mad Lions. But before we look ahead, again, let's keep looking back. Let's talk a little bit about our MVPs from the group stage now. I think we can end on Pentanet. Let's end on Pentanet because I think that's a team that we want to talk more about because I think this is a really cool story as you've already talked about. Let's start with I don't know, who do you want to start with?
Shall we start with the favorites and go down slowly? So we can start with the Demons, the RNGs, and then...
Yeah. So how this is going to work is we're going to give an MVP. This is not the top 6 players of the group stage. This is the MVP from each of the 6 teams that have qualified thus far. I think it's important to recognize who the really big performers have been and also maybe set some expectations for who we expect to be a big factor in round 2. So let's start with Damwon Kia.
So although Canyon was a bit shaky yesterday, on Tuesday's games, I still think he was the best player on Damwon. Showmakers had up and downs. I think he made a huge mistake against C9 on the side. That's when they got Baron, trying to kill Perks, losing his life, wasting a lot of time for the team. Khan obviously had quite a poor performance as well in general. His first couple of days were great. And their bot lane just genuinely quiet. That's just kind of how the team functions. So I think for me, still the biggest MVP on Damwon is Canyon. I think he is still the best player in the world. I'm excited to see Canyon versus Wei. I think that's probably the most...
Can you hand me we're mind melded together. Give me the thing. And we'll go to this camera. This man right here. This man is the god of the jungle. He's not the second coming of anything, but he is certainly the first Canyon. First of his name.
He was the first to create a jungle canyon, not a jungle gap, a jungle canyon.
First of his name, first in the game, to paraphrase Machine and his infinite quote about Simple from CSGO. But yeah, Canyon, absolute GOAT. And I think it's no surprise, right? Like the team clearly plays to set him up for success.
And it's rank 1 in the US in
like
14 days.
Yeah, I think that like Canyon is very real. If we were going to do a top 10 players list, I think most of us, if you would be not putting Canyon number 1 or at least like number 1 or 2, you'd really have to have a strong friggin' argument. Like you'd have to be going deep into some like dark technology as far as the takes go to like get him out of that top ranking. Canyon, incredible player, praised by every other jungler that we have ever talked about. This man is absolutely out of control. And I think that you're right. Like Showmaker, him being able to steal Alistar ult in that C9 game, really popping off, obviously looked really good. But at the same time, he also had moments where like clearly he was playing a little bit too liberally, right? There was that fight near C9's Wolf camp where he
dove in with the Ghost with the Kaiser ult, right?
Yeah, he dove in there and he basically like gave up 60% of his health before he could even get the Alistar ult for like what appeared to me, it was just looked sloppy, right? And I think you're also right that like no one is putting Khan on this list. Khan has looked very like the most shaky of any damn one player, and you're right, the bot lane is just
and Khan like against DFM, against Evie, he was getting kind of stomped on the GP.
He got stomped in two really hard in at least 2 of his
Fudge
games.
was solo killing him a lot. Props to Fudge, I think he stepped up a lot. But it's talking about Damwon. Their mid jungle to me are the biggest carries, and I think they're the 2 players who kind of dropped the ball against C9, getting caught back to back with Barons, and then obviously diving in, losing flashes, Ghost losing flash, and then losing the fight around the dragon, which was kind of the nail in the coffin for them in that game. So Canyon's still my MVP of this team. They have looked quite shaky, I have to admit. After the first 3 days of games they had, I thought, okay, yeah, it's Damwon. They're not going to lose a game. There was a little bit of hiccup against DFM, but there's no chance they're going to drop a game. They dropped a game against C9. C9 mid, I think it went 3-0, didn't they? And they came all the way straight back through the group stage. They're into round 2, so really well played by C9. But yeah, Canyon's my MVP for Damwon.
Has to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, still looking like top player in the tournament and still looking like overall probably the best jungler. Although the next team that we get to talk about is RNG. RNG is a bit of...
It's a hard one.
I don't want to call it a red herring when you think about this team, just talking about the performance. We were talking about the MVP because they 8-0'd, and that is really cool. One, because they're the only team that can... They're in the only group where you can 8-0 because it was quadra round robin. I said it was triple round robin last time. A lot of people called me on that. It was quadra round robin. Very weird format, but such is life when you have to make last minute format adjustments when a region can't attend. Sucks, but RNG, the only 8-0 team in the history of MSI.
It's impossible to choose an MVP on RNG for the simple fact that I was looking at some stats. RNG have played 8 games at MSI, right?
Yeah.
On average, at 15, they're up 6,500 gold. It's 15 minutes on average, which is like, okay, they're just stomping everyone. So you can't really choose a direct MVP. Obviously, Ming was the Ming VP is what we were calling him on the analyst desk. Coming into MSI, he was the MVP of RNG. But now to me, Xiaohu is just standing out. I mean, I don't know if it's just because he roll swapped mid and went into 10-0 and just kind of carried the game through mid as well, just showing off and flexing. But I think Xiaohu's had a great tournament as well with Delusion tops and stuff. So Wei's had a fantastic tournament so far. Everyone's had a fantastic tournament.
Yeah, this is the thing. Is it's like when you and your crew queue up for 5-mans on your Smurf accounts and you're just like punching down in whatever ELO is considered low ELO relative to where you're placing. I'm not here to judge. That's kind of what RNG did. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to belittle LCL and LCO too much, but at the end of the day, this is like RNG was not contested in this group. Having a 6k gold lead on average at 10 minutes means you are not playing against comparable level skill opponents. Like that shit does not happen when 2 teams have even like it actually can't unless this is like scrims and people are just opting into fights where they're like have a 10% chance to win. So it's RNG, yes, they have an MVP. Yes, this is a team we're excited to see more from in the next stage. But like, if you are like RNG 8-0'd, they're going to win the tournament. Like, if RNG are going to win the tournament, it has nothing to do with what we saw in that group.
Yeah, definitely, because it was just stomps. Like bot lane was diving 2v2. Yes, Crying got solo killed, but barring that, there was never really any hiccups. They're 15 minutes up, 6,500 gold. Like they were just a tier and a half, if not like 10 tiers above the group that they were in. So it's really impossible to kind of match, especially with 3 teams, right? When you look at, like, for example, Group C with Damwon and C9 and stuff, when you see DFM come into the play, there's almost like these 3 teams who are, you can't really tell who's better because DFM almost beat C9. DFM beat C9, sorry, almost beat Damwon.
Yep.
But then Damwon lose to C9, right? So it's like, well, it's best of one, so you can't really tell. Damwon's still probably the favorite. C9's probably second. But then we look at this group, it's like, is it just because they're just 1,000 times better, or are these teams just really bad comparable to the teams in the other groups, right? So I think when you get to the next stage, which is round 2 on Friday, 14th of May, we'll see how RNG match up against Damwon in the first game, which I think is going to be the most hyped game of that day, alongside NA versus EU.
Yeah, super important game, of course. So for me, I put Wei as my MVP.
You put Wei?
I think that you can really pick anyone on this roster. I think that everyone had their moments outside of Grang and so.
Yeah, I think Wei on things like the Rumble, the Udyr, the Olaf, he was really, really popping off. He was like I would say their most, it's hard to say consistent, but he was getting them the leads, right? He was always there.
Everyone was usually winning. I'd say that he was very consistent. He had a lot of zero death games, right? I think you can also say Xiaohu. I think you could also say Ming. Like, I think you can really go for, again, I think giving an MVP to RNG, this is one of the few teams where it feels disingenuous because it's like, well, you guys raffle stomped across the board. Yeah. So it's like, we're going to give RNG an MVP, but if you, like, this is one where if someone was like, how dare you say it's Wei, it's Xiaohu, I'd go, yeah, okay, dude, sure. Like, I'm not invested, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter, because this team was not tested.
I'll give you a little test here, okay? Wei on Rumble. He's played 3 games this tournament. What's his KDA?
Is it? I mean, the only reason you're asking me that is because he probably hasn't died yet. It's probably infinite, isn't it?
No.
How many times? I have no idea. He must have died.
He has a KDA of 53.
How many times has he died?
I think once.
God, 1 death. What a feeder.
He has a KDA of 53 on Rumble.
Because I know he had 2 deathless games, but I couldn't remember what the third game was. I wasn't sure if it was 3 deathless.
He died
games.
once in the Pentanet RNG game, the first game of the tournament. Barring that, 7-0, 11, 9-0, 10. Dude, 53 KDA on Rumble. That's nuts.
Again, congrats to RNG for their stat padding. Like,
yeah, and they were already farming stats like KEKWs in the chat, you know?
Yeah, like
just milking them.
It's actually like, yeah. We'll move on from RNG, but the TLDR is, I don't want to bash RNG. I want people to know that I still think RNG is top 2 in this tournament, potentially number 1.
100%.
But again, my point isn't that they didn't play fantastically. My point is that we didn't learn anything about this team from this group.
They didn't have to show anything, right?
Other than that they can play meta champions, right? Like, but yeah, it was... whatever. We're gonna move on from RNG. All right, next up, I still would hold on to the fact that this is the number 3 team in the tournament. It's debatable depending on how you feel about Cloud9's performance yesterday. It was pretty freaking good across the board. But Mad Lions, I'll come out. I feel like King Kaiser. That's kind of redundant. I guess it's King Emperor, isn't it? So Kaiser for me. MVP. I feel like this man was everywhere that he needed to be. He was so incredibly consistent. We didn't see any of the flipping. He played whatever he had to play to make it work for the team. I am on the Kaiser hype train.
I'm on the Carzy hype train.
That's okay. What do you got for
we're a duo cast, and then we're choosing the duo pods.
Synergy.
I don't know. Carzy to me has stepped up a lot.
For sure.
He's doing like crazy damage numbers. He has a really nice just the lane phase itself looks a lot more consistent from both of them. And he's had really pop performances. Like if you think of their games where it was almost close, like against Pain Gaming, for example, it was Carzy's Aphelios who was literally just single-handedly carrying that game in fights. Even though it was a Thresh next to his side, and you can be the supportive kind of guy.
No, I mean you're just buttering me up. For people who don't know, I like pick one champion a year to get really cracked out about.
You love
it was
the
like
Aphelios.
Kane, and then it was Bard, and now it's Aphelios, and I just get really hyped on that one champion, and right now it's Aphelios.
Yeah, and I think Carzy's like. I won't look into stats too much, but every single time I saw his games, he was like 10-1, 10-0, 11-1, and I feel like things like the Kaiser, the Aphelios, the Tristana, it really looked like he's found his footing.
Yeah.
And I feel like he hasn't made that many mistakes. Like if you look at some AD carries in this tournament, like or just in general, AD carries in general, what happens is they get a little bit over I don't know what the word is, overexcited in fights, they jump too far forwards. But Carzy's positioning in fights looks so consistently good, and he always jumps in at the right time, I feel like, especially on like the Kaiser and the Tristana. And I don't know how to go too in depth on this, because I feel like he's just found a form where either the consistency comes from him thinking less and Kaiser thinking more for him when it comes to moving around the map, so he just has to worry about his mechanics more, or if it just comes from, okay guys, you've been griefing throughout the LEC spring split against things like Kalista Jarvan, just like the bot lane 2v2s or a horror, just play more consistent and play aggressive when jungle's on your side, right? And I feel like Elyoya's been playing mostly towards bot side, helping them out. Armwood's been a bit quiet, getting solo kills here and there, but I think the MVPs of Mad Lions right now are jungle bot. To me, the standout is Carzy.
Yeah, I think, and to be fair, not to undersell Arma here, he has some fantastic. He obviously had the crazy Lee Sin game against Robo. He had a lot of really solid games across. Like overall, Mad Lions as a team coming out 5-1. They've just generally looked good. Yeah, I think it's important to talk about because I think that there's a lot of like discussion about the Mad Lions bot lane, and I think that just to clarify where I stand on that point, I think again, and I'll say this because I feel like every time we talk about the Mad Lions at all, this comes up like, oh, how dare people say that Carzy, was going to underperform? The man was so good. He won the split. He played great. I think it's important, again, to reiterate that, like, one, Carzy has played out of his mind in this tournament. This Carzy is peak Carzy, and I love it. I love every friggin' second of it. This is good. This is not what my fears were when I saw this, but it is important to call out that this bot lane was woefully inconsistent in the regular season, over-aggressive at so many times, as you already called out. And in the finals, not in the series for G2. In the series for G2, Carzy was very, very good. But in the finals, they were very quiet.
Yeah.
They were very quiet, and I would say they were not ultimately, ultimately they were not the reason that the team won that series.
They got 2v2 killed every single game. And I remember there was an interview with Bjergsen, a little bit off topic, a long time ago, 5-6 years ago. And I think this was when Sven joined TS, something like this. And he said, what makes a good AD carry is it's so difficult to pin them down and kill them. And it sounds very vague, but it feels so true when you're a pro player. If you play against the greatest AD carries, when I played on the LEC Spring Split, like things like Perks on AD carry, it's so hard to find a way to get them locked down and kill them because our positioning is almost flawless. And I feel like when I watch Carzy's games, his positioning in fights are flawless. And I think the biggest attributing factor to why Carzy is my MVP is because of their 2 games against PSG, who I think were the second strongest team in that group.
For sure.
It was a complete bot cap. Like Carzy on Kaiser and Tristana, although Elioya was really doing well to support them and getting the team leads, I think it was just a complete bot cap. And I think, they really impressed me.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think that Kaiser was also a big part of that, even though his KDA isn't always going to reflect it, but maybe I'm biased because I like to give the supports a little bit of love here and there. But yeah, that's what I'll say is that like the form that we are seeing from Carzy and Kaiser, I want to see that form all the time, every split, every minute. Like that's peak Mad Lions bot lane, and I frankly love to see the way that they have not only found that consistency in big games on a big stage, but that they've done it internationally, right? Because that was the other question, was that this team kind of bombed out last year. And obviously, again, extenuating circumstances when they were in China, 14-day quarantine. Like, if there was ever time to struggle on stage, that was the time. But the fact that now, when they've got the support structure behind them, when the team is doing well, it's doing really well. It's great. It's a great look. And I hope that it continues into the Rumble stage. I try to take a step back, but God, I am so ready for Mad to beat someone in the semifinals and make it to finals. I am then ready for them to win MSI. I am ready. I am ready every step of the way. I believe. I don't want to sell it too hard.
Don't get your expectations too high, Drakos.
I know we talked about this.
Might hurt.
It might hurt, but Europe, no one is flawless this tournament. Mad Lions, they got a lot of flaws, but they fight good when it goes late, and I want to believe. I'll leave it at that, though. I'll leave it at that for now. We'll see if that faith is well placed as we get later in the tournament. Our next team, C9. I did not know if they were going to make it after that first week. It was rough. It was honestly tragic how bad their first week was.
It was an absolute horror, and I think there might have been some tickets booked at the end of that because it was really looking dire because they were down the head-to-head against DFM, and then the biggest turnaround you could ever imagine is taking down Damwon.
Yeah,
that was an unreal game. Like the game I did a review on it last night. And I was watching the game and I was like, wow, this is actually a really impressive game. The first 15 to 20 minutes was kind of slow in a way. There was so much macro things going on around Vision that C9 were just responding against Damwon really well. But to me, the biggest MVP, almost like an unsung hero, barring one game on the Lee Sin, is Fudge. I think Fudge's improvement has been great to see, even throughout the whole tournament to MSI. I think he had a really quiet GP game against Damwon because Khan had the perma push. And every single game I've seen him play, he played Jace, GP, Renekton, and Lee Sin. Okay, 4 carries and 2 silent games. All 4 of those carry games, his jungle only played topside once for a single gank in this Lee Sin game against Khan on Jace. And all 4 of these games on carries, they lost Herald. And the Herald went top lane and he lost his top tier 1 every single game. You're playing Jace, you're playing GP, you're playing these kind of champions, and you're losing your top tier 1 because enemy jungle's playing topside and heralding top. And he still found a way to be useful. Even on the Jace, even though they lost against DFM, he was still like triple killing in fights. He was still really useful. And then the Lee Sin game was just a staple factor of my jungle only came topside once, but I still solo killed Khan. He lost his flash when they lane swapped anyway. And then he played Sion on weak side. Easy. So to me, the unsung hero is Fudge, I think he is definitely the MVP for me on this Cloud9 roster. What I will say is you can kind of give the MVP to players like Perks, who was just carrying 1v9 on Lucian and Yone, Sven and Vulcan, who were smashing bot, Blabber, who stepped the hell up from whatever it was the first 2 days. He was like nervous. I don't know what it was. But I think the growth of Fudge and just seeing him play so fantastically was just kind of heartwarming to see, because he got a lot of criticism, I think, at the start of the year. And now he's showing why he's like one of the best tops in the world.
Yeah, damn, Caedrel. I like you really selling me. I'll say that I don't feel like Fudge. I feel like Fudge had some, you said quieter games. I think rougher games. I think that's why Fudge and Blabber, to me, while they did play really well on the final day of this group and were a big factor as to why Cloud9 moved up, why I wouldn't put them in that MVP category. I think Perks also had 1 or 2 games where he was where it was a little meh, you know what I mean? And he had definitely, again, on this final day, everyone on Cloud9 popped off. I don't want to take away anything from anyone, but when it comes to getting into the nitty gritty, comparing players and picking out who stood out to me the most, I really like the bot lane.
Yep.
And between those two, I'm really inclined to say Vulcan.
I can agree with you on Vulcan. He really, the Damwon game, the Alistar.
The Damwon game, the Alistar was incredibly clutch. The first game that they played, the Tom Kench Varus lane, obviously it's a kind of a meme to give it credit to a Tom Kench player, but the defining thing for me between Tom Kench players, good or bad, is are you in the right place on the map? He was usually there. Are you holding W till the exact right moment in every single fight? And I think that he was. And those 2 games really, really made me happy to see Vulcan succeed on. And then obviously the DFM game, he goes deathless. To be fair, that game was mostly just across the board a stomp, but the dude is really good. I am consistently impressed by, as an EU pundit, I always naturally look at the EU players first, at Perks and Sven, right? This is the Perks and Sven team. I remember them from G2. But then, as we go internationally and as we progress, I look more and more at the players surrounding them. I was really impressed with Blabber domestically, hoping we get to see more from him in this next group stage that's not kind of tainted by those first few games like it was in this stage. But I am really impressed by Vulcan. I'm impressed by how quickly Fudge has grown, because I thought he was really underwhelming the first 2 days, but really good on the final day.
I think, is Fudge the youngest player of the tournament? He's 18 years old. I think he's definitely one of the youngest players of the whole tournament. And
I think he is. I think he played 2 years in, which is crazy too, is he played 2 years in OS and then came pretty much straight into NA and took a spot away from Licorice, who was actually all things considered, one of the best domestic top laners, and struggled in lock-in. I mean, to be fair, Perks did too. A lot of players struggled in that lock-in tournament, but has consistently leveled up over the course of the season. I still would put EUphoria above him on a tier list, but putting Pudge number 2 feels correct to me now.
Yeah, I feel like although it was 1 game of Lee Sin, I think you have to understand the pressure of that game, first of all, because you're 1-2 down, you're against the world champions. You first pick Lee Sin. Obviously, he's a very young player, a lot of criticism, a lot of flack. And then he actually picks Lee Sin. Solo kills Khan. Yes, it wasn't the greatest of solo kills because Khan had no flash and he was already behind. But still, a solo kill is a solo kill. Great. I'm not reading into that too much. That's not the biggest reason as to why I would put him on MVP. It's just if you watch the fights around Drake, even the fight around Baron when Damwon snuck it away and they tried to make the fight, Fudge almost literally solo carried that fight. He got a kick onto Canyon into Ghost and then queued them and almost double killed them once instantly. In the last fight, although Vulcan got the engage, he queued the Drake, wall jumped, and then E-flashed to finish off Ghost. His mechanics were flawless to see, and that's just something I haven't really seen from Fudge. And now that I've seen it, I'm all aboard. I think Fudge is a great player from just seeing that yesterday's games alone. The fact that he can play weak side so easily, his jungle can play bot side so easily, and can still find ways to make himself useful on things like Jace as well. He's my MVP for C9.
Here's the thing that I think is really important to note here is that this continues to compound on itself, because not only was it an incredible game against one of the perceived favorite, if not the perceived favorite of the team, as a rookie player who had on the stage previously struggled. What's even crazier, and this is kind of the final nail in the coffin to me, is that they first picked that frickin' Lee Sin in the face of a Rumble.
Yep.
So let's pretend they lose this game. The first and immediate thing that people are going to latch onto is, why did you first pick this champion for Fudge, who had up until this point been underperforming, I would say, to expectations, and definitely looking like one of the weaker players in this roster. So literally, when we talk about the odds being stacked against someone, that was, in terms of, let's just talk about just public perception, right? That was the worst weighted gamble of all time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, for Fudge, because if he loses, he's meme forever. Cloud9 is meme forever. Yep. Everyone will chalk it up outside of anything else that happened in week 1, they'll be in week 2, this is why you guys lost. How dare you give away Rumble? Rumble was so OP. But then Fudge makes good on that promise.
And that's exactly the reason I think he's the MVP, because you can look at the in-game stuff and that's all flawless, the last 3 games I saw. But the out-of-game stuff, right? The amount of flack and the amount of criticism he would have got if they lost that game and they went 1-3 and they actually got knocked out or whatever it may be. then the first person you would look at is Fudge. We first released him, we gave them Rumble. He even said in his interview afterwards, he said, I don't know why people even criticized our draft for first picking Lee Sin. We think Rumble's not that strong anyway. People are overhyping Rumble. So something to do with scrims perhaps, but public perception was definitely that Rumble's OP. And I was looking at some Rumble win rates just to see how is champion performing. That's 3 wins. The 3 wins for RNG, 7 losses.
That's actually insane. Wow. How is that? That stat is literally right in front of me, and I didn't know that. That's actually crazy.
So this champion is, I don't know if it's just came into the tournament. We saw Wei play it once, and everyone was like, Rumble's broken.
I think the thing is...
But it's not found that much success at MSI so far.
We can talk more about Rumble too as we look ahead. I think the thing for me is I think it needs more than people think it needs. Like,
never mind. It has 7 wins, 8 losses. I think it was the first 3 days that it was 3 wins, 7 losses.
Okay.
Wait, let me check it.
That's less crazy.
Let me check it real quick.
Oh my God. I was like, wow, those are crazy stats.
It was okay. So in the last 3 days of MSI, the last 3 days, it's 3-7. But it was 4-1 on the first 3 days. The first 2 days it was 4-1, so everyone was like, "Holy moly, this champ is broken."
I think your point's still valid.
But
I think it's still, I think, worth the priority that it has.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
definitely.
that people need to think more about it and how to leverage it more. It's definitely not unbeatable.
I still think it's a really powerful jungle. Top 3 jungle still easily. I think maybe just people overhyped it to the point where I'm going to first pick it and then give them Udyr and think I have a winning jungle matchup. But then you think like, wait, Udyr is actually still pretty broken.
Udyr and Lee Sin, you don't need to think a lot about, I'd say. You can slam a Lee Sin in top lane or mid lane for the most part, and you don't need to worry. Like, you can trust that a Lee Sin's going to fit in your composition somehow. Udyr does Udyr things. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of comp. I think Rumble needs a bit more. But moving on.
Yeah.
Next on our list, second to last, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain Talon. I can't pronounce that. Sorry, French viewers. You can send me a clip of how to pronounce it, and I'll get better at pronouncing PSG. Who are you leaning towards on this one?
Now, a lot of people think of Maple, I think.
Yeah, he's. I actually have like 3 names written down because I'm not sure, so I'm kind of waiting to see what you say.
I'm going to say River. I think River when this team gets leads, I think River is the biggest driving factor behind it. Now, Maple obviously found his footing when it came to like, I'm going to drop set, I'm going to play more of my mages and this kind of stuff, and my Lucian, of course. And he did really well. I have to attribute a lot of it to him, but I think the biggest driving factor behind PSG is definitely River. I think that although they did lose 2 games to Mad Lions, the Nidalee game that he played in that first game, I think that it wasn't really necessarily his fault as to why they lost. I think bot lane was just struggling a lot, and maybe he could have helped them a little bit more. But in all of their wins against, Istanbul Wildcats and Pain Gaming, this guy was just kind of making fun of everyone. He was just running around on Udyr, taking camps in your face, getting really good dives on Volibear. The Rumble in team fights was nuts. He even starts building Magi's and stuff. So, and I really like his personality to the point where I've never spoken to him. I've read a couple interviews here and there, but I can see a very charismatic side of him when it comes to like a play happens, or Maple makes an outplay. Camera goes to River, he's just laughing, So he's really chilled out. I love to see that he's enjoying himself on the stage, and the fact that a player can crack a smile in like a serious game is always a nice thing. That was when Humanoid, I think Humanoid flashed forward on Lucian and Maple killed him with the Syndra QE. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, okay.
And then the camera went to River and he was laughing, and this was like not an important game for them, but it was it was against Mad Lions, and he's just laughing. So I like to see the charisma on his side. But I think he's one of the biggest driving factors behind PSG.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I think Maple is the other name on this list for me. I think there's an argument for Doggo based on the context of this tournament, but I won't say that he's been performing above and beyond to be that MVP. But I think the fact that he is a sub and that he has gotten so good with this team so quickly means that Doggo does deserve some recognition.
I do feel like if like sounds like a very obvious thing because it's jungle role, right? But if jungle doesn't do anything, right? Like let's say River didn't do anything in just power farm, this team would do nothing. I feel like it's just all comes down to River and Kaiwing kind of teaming up with River, and then Maple getting the kills. Hanabi's kind of AFK on his island most of these games, and Doggo's like a clean-up team fight player. I feel like.
I mean, I think we're right because we saw that domestically too, right? I mean, obviously it was Unified playing at the time, but the Kaiwing River duo is the driving force for this team. Like, yes, Maple is the guy who does the damage in the team fights, but I think you're right. I think I'm inclined to agree with you after that. That's a really good point. I think that Kaiwing playing with a different AD carry, I think, has probably limited him in his ability to really do everything that he wants to do. But I think that River still remains this huge proactive playmaking force.
Maple is still like the biggest driving factor of like if you look at both carries, I think there's like Doggo is obviously nice to have as a carry. I think he's reliable. He doesn't die too much, which is like a very stupid thing to say, but he doesn't die a lot. But Maple is the guy that's going to get you the team fights when he's going to send it. Even when they're losing and the enemy team gets Baron, he just flashes forward on Syndra to try to trade 1-for-1. So that guy's got the balls there, and he's going to try to carry your team. And I think Doggo's just going to be like the cleanup kind of cleanup player.
MSI drinking game drinking water or Red Bull, of course, though, stay responsible, is every time a caster or pundit says send it.
Oh, yeah. I think I said it way too many times on the cast.
Everyone did. It's just, there's always buzzwords that stick with us, and it happens all the time. Every single international tournament, there's one. This time it's send it. It's been different stuff in the past. So, if you and your friends are looking to drink a lot of water every time a caster says send it,
I need to stop saying that.
You're going to be fully hydrated by the end of game 1, let me tell you. Very, very hydrated.
Oh, dear Lord.
Anyway. Or you're going to have wings with 3 eyes. Let's go, Red Bull.
I can fly.
Last on the list, certainly sadly at the bottom of this list, but still, their story is the best. They might end up last in this group, but their story will remain one of the best in the tournament. It is Pentanet.gg. This is a team.
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi. Let's do it, dude. We've committed to drinking a shoey if this team wins any games in group stage of water. God, guys, the responsibility. Come on. If Pentanet win any games, which I'm kind of hoping happens because I love the OPL community, now the LCO community. I love OS. A lot of fantastic casters who come into that region where I'm close with many of them. And Pentanet.gg, crazy story, incredible. We already talked about it at the start of the day. The best of 5 that they beat, they managed to overcome the Unicorns of Love, the LCL, the CIS, one of the all-time strongest regions in the wild card stages or the emerging stages or the play-in stages, whatever you want to call them, however you want to look at them, taken down by, historically, one of the weakest. A crazy turn after their league was dissolved, after the region known as North America took all of their players. They put together a team that can make it past round 1. And I'm going to give credit here to the only person on this stage who is half man, half highlighter, and that is Pabu. This man, incredible.
Half man, half highlighter? I love that, actually.
The man, he's a highlight reel. He's got highlights in his hair. To be honest with you.
In a world, one man. It's just this guy's highlighter.
One man. Determined to get every Crayola crayon on his head in a single life 1v1 master. No, I mean, real talk, it was scrappy, it was hard, it was difficult, it was not clean, but ultimately Pentanet got there. And I think you can see Pentanet level up every time they played on stage. You could see them getting slowly better and better. But I think while you could pick any player in this like monumental upset story that is Pentanet making this far, I think Pabu was, you can look at the Karthus game as the final game is a good example, but he was always doing something. Now, part of that, you've highlighted this earlier, is bias, because in this meta, the one player who always gets to play League of Legends, regardless of lane differences, regardless of matchups, is the jungler, which is maybe less true if you're in a super losing jungle matchup. So maybe I'm a little bit biased there, but I'm just inclined. I saw so much good stuff from Pabu, and yeah, I at the end of the day, I think that without him, this team would not have made it through.
I think the coolest thing about Pabu is how in all their 3 games against UOL, he played a different champ. They were playing things like Nidalee Zed, and they were playing things like Karthus Lee Sin. So the mid jungle top as well with like Jace top was really probably talking about how they want to draft these things out, because you're playing these kind of not cheese-esque things, but these are very solo queue kind of things, right? Zed, Nidalee, Karthus, Jace. This is very powerful in solo queue, and playing against Karthus, playing against these champs like Zed, you're kind of sweating if they get a kill. They get a kill or 2, you're sweating a little bit because you know the power of the champions. The difference is their champions are weak. They can't contest too much. They're not very strong 1v1. But the thing is, Ananastic was playing Kha'Zix into Karthus, which is a horrible jungle matchup. Pabu took Exhaust. I don't know if they prepped these things, because I saw an interview where they said, yeah, let's just slam Zed. But like the
no,
whole...
they said they didn't. They hadn't scrimmed on it. They just
wanted to slam the Zed. But I don't know, their whole prep or like ideas of the draft of just playing these kind of best of 1-esque, really OP, kind of not cheesy champions, but really powerful champions in the best of 1, because if they get a lead, it's impossible to win in a sense.
Yeah.
Was really smart. So I give credit to their mid jungle, Pabu and Chaz. I think my MVP is Praedyth though, because I think he was the consistent driving factor for this team in all of their wins against UOL. You look at him he had 2 back-to-back Samira games, and I remember the first win they had against UOL, he was playing Samira. He was really strong. He got a triple kill in mid. They got Baron, and he played the fight to perfection. And then against UOL, he played Samira. That game, he was a little bit more quiet because it was kind of like the Zed show for Chaz. But then he played the Xayah game. And the Xayah game, to me, was the biggest reason that I think he's my MVP, because he almost, I won't say he single-handedly carried this game, because BioPanther and Pabu were kind of strong on their Jason Karthus, but he was doing insane amount of damage on the Xayah. Their whole comp was about killing the Xayah. Kaiser, Alistar, Kha'Zix with a Victor, and maybe a Meganar. It's all about killing Praedyth. He lived a lot. He kind of lived every single fight. The only time that he died was when they tried to end the game, and he tried to hit the Nexus and he just died for no reason. I think that was a mistake. But barring that, I think he's been the biggest factor for me. I think he's pumping really high damage numbers for his team, which makes sense when you're playing things like Samira and Xayah. But I think his mid jungle are really good at bridging him towards the late game.
Yeah, and Praedyth certainly had a fantastic performance, right? And the vast majority of those games, he was a huge factor. Yeah, I think it's hard to pick one factor in this monumental story. Pabu's easy. His head's bright green. It's easy to see him. He stands out, literally in this case. But I think Praedyth is a good choice. Again, shout out to the LCO, to the OPL, to
legends,
to the Oceanic region. Absolute friggin' legends. Shout out to every fantastic caster that is in that region or has come out of that region. There are so many of them. Yes, they are exporting talent to NA, but before they were exporting talent to NA, they were exporting casters.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because they have like the smallest player base. The other teams in this tournament, you had Brazil, you had TCL, VCS that can show up.
They're regionally not close enough to anyone else to scrim on good ping with any other region.
And LCL is scrimming European teams, Turkish teams. There's like this zone where TCL, LCL, and LEC can scrim each other. You've got the EU national leagues who can also scrim the LCL. Then you've got Brazil, you've got the CB LOL. But no, it's the LCO with the smallest player base, and they can only scrim each other, who've come all the way here after losing their region, losing their entire ecosystem of league, and all their players got stolen, and they still made it to round 2. What's your excuse? Huh? Well, yeah, my excuse is that
who are you talking to? I'm like, my excuse, I'm bad at League of Legends, Caedrel. What's your excuse, buddy?
I'm washed up.
My hands, they don't work so good no more.
Are they here?
Yeah, again, Pentanet.
Legends.
Absolute legends. No matter what happens in the rest of the tournament, analytically, I don't expect a lot, but you guys have already overcome so much just to be here and to be competitive. It is an incredible story, and I will remember this for a long time. This is one of the coolest international stories we've seen in a very, very long time. Pentanet, absolute banger. Now, at the start of this, to kind of wrap this section up before we get into our interview with Kaiser, courtesy of Laure, let's take a look at the tier list that we put together at the start. Now, there are... I feel pretty good about everything on this tier list, but I want to make a few changes. Now, remember, the tier list was a little bit limited because this is my bad as a host. I didn't really plan 100% what these categories were in advance and discuss it with people, so you got to hear us very sloppily put this tier list together. But S tier was tournament favorites. A tier was, and this is organized by groups too. If you're watching in podcast lands, we brought up the tier list. I will now read them out to you because I'm a smart video podcast host who realizes you can't see these if you're listening in audio only.
5-hit.
S tier was tournament favorites, which is Damwon Kia. A tier was the people who could contest, the people who could get up there that could maybe upset the apple cart. This is RNG, Mad Lions, C9. B tier was good. For sure making stage 2, maybe making top 4, but not super likely. That was PSG Talent. C tier was kind of the best of the bottom tier, which was UOL and the Istanbul Wildcats. D tier was better luck next time, kiddos, which was Pentanet.gg, Pain Gaming, Detonation Focus Me, and Gillette Infinity. And I think that for the most part, this turned out to be pretty correct.
Yeah. A couple things that we could change. I think the couple things that stand out to me are DFM showed up a lot better than a D-tier team, I think. Taking down C9, almost beating Damwon.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think the tier list after round 1, you can obviously drop the teams that got knocked out. But I think the teams that you don't drop that got knocked out is DFM. You make them go higher. Pentanet, obviously, you could push them a tier above UOL because they were the better team in a best of 5. So I think you could swap UOL, Pentanet, you could swap DFM, and Istanbul Wildcats, and I think you got a good tier list there.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is like, I don't know how I feel about, I mean, you can, just based on results, demote Istanbul Wildcats and Unicorns of Love. But I'd say I don't really feel like demoting anybody, but what I will say is that, like, I think that Pentanet.gg, regardless of what we will say in the future for Oceania, regardless of if this is a one-time thing, they deserve to be in the C tier along Istanbul Wildcats and Unicorns of Love. And for Detonation Focus Me, if we had seen it, I almost B. I think they're like C.
I thought you were going to keep them in D.
No, I'm not going to keep them in D.
Thank God, Drakos.
No, Ebi's
to me.
Cracked,
Talk
dude.
To me.
Sorry, we've been doing after-hour streams, and I'm just used to swearing. But like, Ebi is cracked. His team is actually good. They're literally, the fact that they beat C9, important. This is very important here because we talk about Doggo getting subbed in, but Doggo plays League of Legends competitively. Kaz is an analyst.
He's retired 5 times.
Yes, he was washed like 3 seasons ago. I love Kazu. He's been a fantastic force for that team. He plays solid in this tournament overall. But like the fact that DFM beat C9, they beat a regional first seed for the first time in the region's history, like.
And this team's only going to get stronger at Worlds. Before we carry on talking about them, next split, I think River, is it? No, not River, sorry. It's
No. So Gang
is coming in as
on the bench,
support.
And he's actually played well internationally.
And their jungler Steel, is actually getting residency, I think. So
TLDR, they get to have 3 queens.
They get and I think Kazu was TLDR, they get to have 3 queens. But I think Kazu was misplaying a lot. He was engaging for no reasons a lot. I think you could saw that on Set and Rel, especially against a Damwon game. So now you have your support who you wanted to have on the bench, who will come in for Worlds if they make it. I expect they do. So they probably are even stronger. But I remember when I was trying to convince you that the LJL is higher than the D-tier team, and
I didn't believe you. I didn't believe you even a little bit. Because I've been baited in on this train. I have a lot of history with this region, Caedrel. I have believed in this region in the past. I've watched Vedi believe in this region, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong about DFM.
Clip it.
DFM were excellent in this tournament. This is one of the best tournaments that the LJL has played probably ever. The fact that they beat C9, the fact that they probably should have beaten.
And I'm going to get you hyped a little bit more, okay, for when Worlds comes around.
Yeah.
Arya and Steel are going to get better. Their support sub's going to come in, which they want to, and Kazu's going to become their analyst or something like this now.
Return to coaching,
and Evie's going to be as good as he was. So this team is going to be popping off. Utapom was doing well as well, and you're going to put them in a higher tier when it comes to Worlds.
Depends on what.
And I'm going to convince you.
Depends on what the regional third seeds that they're going to go up against look like.
And I think Worlds is when LJL will show up to group stage.
LJL makes group stage at Worlds.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, group stage is the second stage at Worlds, so play-ins into group stage. Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna bet when we get closer. I'll let you hold on to that one because I want to believe you. Right now, I'm all in the story. Like these guys are fantastic.
We can make some crazy bet if they don't. But yeah, I mean, we'll see when it gets to it. It's just round 2 of MSI. But yeah, I'm just saying.
Anyway,
I'm just hyped.
Yeah. So Pendant to GG, obviously the coolest upset story. We would move them up to C tier, but Detonation focused me up to C tier as well. They were fantastic. They played fantastically across the board. I was actually pretty impressed with the levels that we saw. Sad to see a lot of these teams go. Ultimately, only the top 6 are going to remain. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I feel like we did this one pretty well. And shout out to the teams that really, really surprised us here. Oh man, I'm sad we lost Detonation Focus. I'm glad we got Cloud9. It would be really a shame not to have Sven and Perks, but like part of me wanted to see the DFM to groups.
I think that they wouldn't have done that great in round 2. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I think against
they're
RNG,
still really
Damwon,
rough around
Mats,
the edges.
They're very rough around the edges, but hopefully they're a lot more well-rounded when it comes to Worlds or the next international event that they show up on. But I think our tier list was pretty accurate. I think SAB was definitely on point. I think the CD was slightly shaky. Yeah. 2 teams that didn't show up as much, UOL and TCL. Who I think TCL. Holy Phoenix to me was standing out a lot.
Holy Phoenix was so good.
I'm really sad for Holy Phoenix that he actually lost. UOL obviously getting beat out by Pentanet, so that was a very shaky tournament for them. And then Pain and Infinity never really showed up. I mean, Pain almost beat Mad Lions, and Infinity was also really quiet, but hopefully they can show up next time.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. So to recap, if we were to update our MSI tier list, it would still be S tier, Damwon, A tier, RNG, Mad Lions, C9. A lot of this is going to change once we get to see groups proper, if we were to remake it one more time. But
there's also an argument with RNG and S tier, but it's only like their group was weak. So we'll keep...
we could put them both there if you wanted to. But keeping the top of the table relatively the same, but getting the promotions. C tier was originally just Unicorns of Love and Istanbul Wildcats. We've moved Pentanet and Detonation Focus Me up there. Pain Gaming and Gillette Infinity will remain in D tier. Better luck next time. We'll see what these regions can do at Worlds. That said, it's time for us to focus in on the next stage. And in order to do that, we're going to need a little backup from our friend Laure, and we're going to need to hear from our boy Kaiser. So we know exactly...
Your MVP.
My MVP. To see exactly what is coming for Mad Lions, exactly what happened. Let's hear their perspective on MSI so far.
Kaiser, thank you so much for joining me. I want to review the whole journey for Mad Lions because you arrived in Iceland 3 weeks ago now when we count the lockdown. So yeah, how has everything been when it comes to the new scrim partners, the new working environment? Because I know that Mad Lions is a well-oiled machine when it comes to preparation. So how has it been for you adapting to everything?
I think it has been pretty good actually. Like all the outside factors have been like really good. I think for example Iceland as a climate and tap water, like everything you could ask for is like really nice. The hotel food is really nice, stuff like this. That like the outside factors are all like really good. And like inside the game, especially scrims in the early weeks, they went really well. Like we were actually surprised. I mean, the first day when we landed in Iceland, it was like everyone was a bit like jet lagged maybe, or like yeah. I mean, they were tired, and then the scrims went to. Yeah, I mean they were not that great, but after we had a good night's rest, and after we talked about some like meta changes, stuff like this, we had a really productive week, and I was really happy with our scrim results.
Good to hear, because it showed on stage. And when you compare the scrims to the LEC teams that you're used to facing, how was it different in terms of level, preparation, and how hard the teams try during the scrims?
So of course it depends on which team we were scrimming, but I think most of the teams were taking it really seriously. There were almost no happy games. I mean, of course, some happy games have to be in there, like when 20 minutes, 50,000 kills, it happens. But most teams were really taking it seriously, because they know they are representing their region, right, and they want to show their best. I think especially Damwon and RNG are really good in that regard, because I mean, it just feels like they take every game kind of seriously, and they don't really troll around, and maybe that happened in EU sometimes. So yeah, I mean that's a bit of a change, I guess. But C9 as partners were also really nice. I think I mean MSI as a whole, I think the scrims were more productive than in EU. But maybe that's just because what's at stake, right? So yeah. Aside from that, I think. The playstyles from teams, of course, are different than from EU. For example, RNG, they kind of like to play aggressive, in early game, especially Wei. He's a bit of a psychopath, in the jungle. I think we don't really have that many psychopath junglers in EU, maybe self-made, but yeah, I mean, I think just the playstyles are different from each team, and it really shows that EU is not the only region in the world, right? So yeah.
We will get back to the playstyles later because you mentioned something that I found interesting, the fact that there's teams representing their regions, and unlike Worlds, it's only one team representing every region. And I was wondering, we know that EU performed quite well internationally over the past few years, and you being the only team representing Europe with that legacy of teams performing well, how did it play for you? Did it impact your expectations for MSI? How do you see yourself performing? And did you thought about this at all?
Well, I mean, we let down Europe already once, so we were kind of tryharding more, even though maybe we said we're having fun here and stuff like this. Of course, we're having fun, right? That's part of the experience, I would say. If you're not having fun, you're not going to play well. That's just a fact, I think. And I think we're just trying our best, I guess, to deliver, I guess. And we kind of feel the pressure, of course, being the only representative. Oh my goodness, representative of EU. Of course, you feel the pressure, right? Because all the fans are watching you. There's no G2 or something that can bail you out if you go out in groups, stuff like this. So of course we are trying to try our best, and we also want to improve, right? You don't get to scrim, or you don't get to play against international teams every day. So we have this advantage of scrimming against the best of the best. And once we're home in the EU again, we will have a playstyle difference, or we will have more ideas than other teams. So we take this really seriously, and we just want to prove that also Europe is a really strong contender for even the world title, right? Because I think we are, as a region, are at a really high level.
Yeah, and it's all about the improvements you can make and how these teams can help you get there and how you're going to perform afterwards when you come back to the LEC. And is there anything you improved on already, or you feel like teams, I don't know, had an impact or influence on your playstyle already?
I mean, it's of course hard to say, because it changes kind of each week for us. I think it kind of showed as well. If we improve our early game, maybe our mid game is shaky again and stuff like this, or maybe the other way around, we improve our mid game and then our early game is shaky again. So I mean, we're improving day to day, and I think even though we show some mistakes, right? I think the mistakes we do are kind of stupid, and we know they're stupid, so we should be able to fix them kind of easily. And I mean, that's kind of it, I would say. There's not really much difference to normal scrims, I guess, or normal things we can improve on. I think we just try to do the same things every day, and just improve slowly. And one day we'll get there, I guess.
Yeah, and we can already see it on stage. Honestly, from the games you had, I mean, maybe not today, but still, you made it out of groups, and that's what matters. No, but honestly, we often say that scrim results don't match, especially the results you have on stage. But maybe from the games you had on stage today, even the losses you had, you noticed that you had some improvements and something that you've been working on that's been working for you. Do you have this feeling after the second round robin?
I mean, yeah, I would say our mid-late game definitely improved over the course of the last few weeks. I think our drafting improved as well. I think we have more of an idea of what counters us as especially because we kind of only showed one or two styles, I guess, and we know now that we have to work on creating more, right? We used to always be a really flexible team. So on new patches, of course, you can't pull out 4 or 5 strategies, right? That's too much time in scrims to train. And right now we focus on 1 or 2 strategies, and now we have to branch out and just find more picks that we are comfortable with, that we can play into the meta junglers, or maybe if all meta junglers are banned, or maybe meta mid laners or whatever, then we can just pull out the next big thing, right? I think that's what we have to improve on right now, and I think we have a lot of time to do that right now, and come into the Rumble stage prepared.
What about the meta then? Because you mentioned it, and it feels. I mean, we talked about this during the post-game interviews, but there's 2 schools. There's the school we've been used to seeing during the LEC and the first 3 months of competition, and these new picks that MSI brought. I'm thinking about the AP jungles, the AD mid laners, some also new picks on the mid lane. It doesn't feel like bot lane changed too much, but from the experience you had, do you feel like there's been some misleading in some picks and some teams maybe too stubborn, picking some champions that are not completely good, according to you?
It's really hard to say, I would say, because I think, honestly, right now, I don't think there's a single team that has wrong priors, or I think every team has a thought of what is good, right? And they execute on it. And I don't think there was a single champion that was oh my god, why are they picking this again? I think most teams really know what's good right now, and some people might say, oh, why are people not picking enchanters or whatever, and I thought that as well, that the Shuria's change would bring back enchanters into the meta, but it's looking like it's just engage supports all over again, especially for bot lane, because I mean Kaiser got nerfed a bit, but it didn't really hit her that hard. And so people just like to handshake Kaiser Tristana because they're the strongest AD carries in the meta right now, and especially with AP junglers right now in the meta, especially mid lane is a bit more flexible, I guess, because you see some Zeds or Kianas, maybe stuff like this, because just the fact that you have an AP jungler now, where you used to have Hecarim, Udyr. I mean, Udyr was a hybrid, I guess, but mostly AD junglers. The 2 AP junglers in the meta right now really branch out the mid lane pool for sure.
All right, well, we'll see how the meta evolves for the rest of the tournament. As we saw, you're moving to the Rumble stage with the rest of the teams. We're still waiting to see who will join you in Group C. Damwon is likely to qualify, of course. So I was wondering, who looks stronger so far, RNG or Damwon, and why?
I mean, of course, Damwon had a game against DFM, which looked really, really shaky. So I would say RNG right now. But I think RNG also had a weaker group, I would say. UL, I think, is a pretty good team, but the Oceanian team made it out in the end. So that was kind of a surprise for me personally. But yeah, I think RNG looks for sure stronger. They're looking cleaner. I think Wei as a jungler just fits really well into the meta right now. His Morgana, his Rumble, his Udyr, everything just works for him, I guess. And yeah, I mean, being comfortable on these new champions is just a really big deal, and that he is just shows that RNG adapted really well to the meta. So I mean, Damwon also looks strong and dominant in some of their games, right? But I think they had more happy games like us, and I think yeah, I think it's more likely that Damwon will crumble in the Rumble stage.
Interesting. Now, okay, last question for you, Kaiser. Who are you looking forward to facing in the Rumble stage, and why?
I would say Ming, because when I watched the LPL finals, he was so good. He got robbed of his MVP, I would say. Gala got it, but support lives matter, So I would say Ming is for sure a player to watch. In every game, he has so much impact, and even if they're behind, he always looks for these complete outplays, and that's what a good support should do. And I think it's going to be a really fun matchup against Galaming, because the bot lanes will be so bloody. Like, it's going to be China versus China all over again, And I think that's what I'm looking forward to, just like perma-fights bot lane.
I'm excited as well. Kaiser, thank you so much for this interview. And best of luck in the Rumble stage. We'll see each other again at the end of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to both Kaiser and Laure. Laure, that was a fantastic interview.
Yeah, it was.
It's one of my favorite parts about international events is getting the Laure interviews with the players is so cool to have. Wow, where to start? There's so much to cover in that interview. There's so much that was shared.
The funniest thing was that he was like, yeah, Iceland's great. The tap water.
People bring up the nation. People would bring up like the scenery. He brought up like, okay, the temperature is good, I think he said. Like, he would bring up, wow, what a beautiful country. I'm loving the culture. He's like, the hotel has good food. The tap water is good. I'm like, that is peak freaking gamer right there.
His name in solo queue was Tap Water Enjoyer, I think, as well.
I mean, so to be fair, like Berlin has hard water, so there's like a lot of, I think, lime in the water specifically. So it's not bad tap water, but it's definitely like, it's not bad. You can drink it, it's fine, right? But it's like, I can see, a little tap water mixed up definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that was actually such a great interview. There's so many cool things that they talked about. I think the couple, we'll talk about the biggest things that I think are most important.
Yeah,
and I think the number one thing is that Mad Lions, he thinks that there's scrims, there's no more happy games in scrims, that everyone's taking it very serious. It's an important tournament and the scrims are more productive. Now, I wonder if you can see that as the tournament progresses, because I think that their mid to late games gotten better. Like he said, he thinks their drafting's improved a lot. And I wonder if that's because the scrims are more productive. So Mad Lions, who are a team who are very serious, coaching staff very serious, they want to make sure that everything's pixel perfect, really good prep. Even outside of the game, they have a lot of work going for them. So it's a very hard-working, well-oiled machine, as Laure said.
Yeah.
So having these normal happy games and having more productive scrims, maybe this just makes Mad Lions just skyrocket in terms of improvement curves. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's probably true for most teams in the world's environment. They're just going to really, really step up. Mm-hmm. And I can't say this is 100% true for LPL, LCK, but in my experience with talking to teams about it, it's just like your motivation alone goes through the roof when you're at an international event. On top of that, you're playing teams that are usually better than you in some capacity, so you're learning so much so rapidly. And if I look at Mad Lions, right, a lot of inconsistency in the regular season, right? Even though ultimately they came out and won in playoffs. And if you tell me that they had off and on scrim weeks domestically in EU, that doesn't surprise me. Like, how can you have good scrims consistently? But when you come in internationally and you're playing against the best teams in the world, I think it makes sense that like this is like, if there's ever a time to buckle down and take League of Legends serious and be super motivated, I imagine it's 10 times easier to take every scrim and treat every scrim like a world final when you're at an MSI stage and like every game is going to matter in the next group stage. Whereas like domestically, it's like you play so many best of ones, they're best of ones, it's kind of a flip. And even while you will play best of ones here, you know that like beating Astralis week 6, XL, whatever, even beating G2, right? It's cool. It's important in a single week. But beating RNG in a best of one, even if it is just a best of one, means something. So the fact that they're that motivated, the fact that the scrims are going that good, it just makes it
especially because even he said like they bombed out of Worlds last year, and Laure was talking about like the pressure, the history of EU at international events. You're the only real team representing us. And he said, yeah, last year sucked, but right now I think we could be title contenders. That to me sounds awesome. Like the fact that they actually have that confidence, the improvement curve. And I think that when you look at their in-game stuff, the early game has always been great for Mad Lions. Driving factors, bot lane, humanoid, solo lane lanes, and especially EUphoria kind of getting them their leads, right? It's always the mid to late game where they drop the ball. And you can see that even in the LEC spring split, right? Where they had games against Misfits where they're up like 8k gold and then PTO on Silas gets hundreds of kills and then they just throw the game. Even games against the Istanbul Wildcats where they're handily winning the game. They make a really good Baron play, and then all of a sudden they drop one mid wave, and then Istanbul Wildcats with Nocturne Tristana get 3 towers when Mad Lions get 1 when they're the ones with Baron buff, right? So they still have dropped the ball a little bit in the mid to late games, but I think that he's been saying they've cleaned it up. I think yesterday, although they had a couple happy games, they have looked a little bit better in the later stages of the game, even when their early game fundamentals don't help them out. If they lose an early game, they still look kind of clean in the mid to late game. So that's still my biggest worry for them, the mid to late game. Can they make sure their macro game, whatever it is, in the late stages of the game, when it's a lot more of a slower game, a lot less fighting, that they can just keep up? Because I feel like in skirmishes, they're always down to fight, man.
Yeah, I'm also low-key sweating because of one of the other things that Kaiser said, which is that when they play RNG, it's going to be the full-on LPL bot lane.
China versus China bot lane fight.
That's like...
Do you know what's even better? Because Gala Ming has been diving bot almost every game in their group. And then Mad Lions has always been playing so much more aggressive and they're so much more consistent, right? So you have the bot lanes clashing, China versus China bot lane. And because Mad Lions bot lane was so inconsistent in spring, I really hope that their consistency now doesn't break under Gala Ming. I really hope it doesn't break.
No, me too. And the thing that I want full confidence performance. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like if there's an interview afterwards where Karzi and Kaiser says, hey, like we went in, we believe we played our best, they were just better, that'll make me happy. What I don't want to hear is like, yeah, we really choked on the pressure.
They get sucked
really
into the int, you know? You get sucked into the int. You get just like,
Like,
oh, we could go for it 2v2 here. Yeah, screw it. Jungle's here. Both dead.
Obviously, I want them to win, but if they lose, but they played at their best, I'll feel like I sound such a dad. Like, you go out there and give it 100%, and I'll be proud of you, son. God damn it. I'm just getting old, dude. It's just happening. I'm just turning into a dad, whether I like it or not.
Just keep up with the memes and you'll be fine. Unlike Trevor, he doesn't even know what send it is.
Oh my god, it's like a meme within itself that he doesn't know the memes.
And I think the other funny thing that Kaiser said in the interview was that, Scrim's going great. Way's a bit of a psycho jungler. I think the only other only other psycho jungler we've ever faced really is Selfmade. So I think that really shakes up the early game, makes him a little bit strong in the early game. But he's probably, when my definition of a psycho jungler is probably what Way is doing is either level 1, level 2 invading non-stop with his team, or he's after first clear base, he's just running into your jungle and trying to dive you.
The quintessential, we used to call it psychopathing, was when Mowgli was on Vitality.
Yeah.
And he used to play Olaf. And he used to rock up to your blue buff that you were starting on at level 1. And you would duo jungle with Mowgli. Because Mowgli would follow you to do none of his own camps. He would follow you to every one of your camps as Olaf and say, neither of us are playing the game,
I
buddy.
distinctly remember playing one game against Mowgli on stage where I was playing Sejuani, he was playing Camille Jungle, 2019. And I did blue buff. On my red side, I did blue buff. And then I went to my wolves. And all of a sudden, there's a Camille eeing over my wolves wall. And hitting me in the face. And then we're both standing there looking at each other for at least a minute's time. Like, you want the wolves? No. Well,
Are you hitting the wolves? I want the wolves.
We're both just literally staring each other down. Every time I walked through my mid tower to come back into the wolves entrance, he would just start hitting me. And every time I checked, he wasn't doing the wolves. So I was like, okay. And that was that was when I realized, okay, this guy's insane, man. Like, what am I take my bot camps. Just take them. Like, honestly, you deserve them.
you can have it.
Bot lane guys, you're probably going to get ganked. This guy might flash over the wall level 2. Just be careful. But it's true. Like, Way sounds like that kind of jungle, you know, just take blue, just run into your jungle, like, screw it. See what happens, you know?
I love it, dude.
I've done this 1,000 times.
It.
It's a thing where it's like, I take red and walk into your jungle. I flip it, it's a 50-50. But because I've flipped it over 1,000 times and I've seen every single outcome, it's actually a 60-40 to me.
Yeah.
So I might die, but there's a smaller chance that you're going to die, you know? So that's what the definition of a cycle jungler in my eyes is. I love it. The thing is, most junglers, especially when I was jungler, was like, okay, let's just get the full clear done and then we'll see what we want to do.
Yeah.
I think their mind's like, let's just get my one camp and then see what he's trying to do.
I feel like as a jungler, you're probably also lured into a false sense of security when you've played, you know, your Volibear a million times, your Udyr a million times, your Morgana a million times. You know, you push Q and W on the camp. You're like, you click on bot. You know, you click away. You click. Mm-hmm. You're kind of like, there's not really a lot of micro in jungle these days. So you're like, you stand where you're supposed to stand in Morgana. You push both your buttons and you're chilling. So you're not even watching your character, and then suddenly there's like an Udyr in your face level 2.
Steel
like,
did that exact same thing.
Boy.
Steel did the same thing. I can't remember which team it was against, but Steel did the exact same thing. I don't know if it was against C9. I don't really know what it was, but he was invading level 3 as Udyr with blue buff onto Morgana just to steal it away. And I mean, he lost a lot of time in full clearing, but he got a mental edge, took his blue, and he was alphas, you know.
What is it we used to say? Or what is it? No more farming like for 3 items. Like the game begins at level 1. What was that? Was that the Perks quote back when you started playing AD carry? That's how I feel about jungle right now. It's like the game begins. Like when Way is in the jungle, the game begins at level 1.
Yeah.
Let's like
it's just Armageddon from then onwards.
Yeah, you don't know full. This is in this house we do not full clear. You know, like we fight
full clear wet.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, I'm thrilled that Mad Lions are feeling so good and that they're developing so quickly. I really like the confidence that Kaiser has in representing EU. I think there was a long period of time when I look at like 2016, 2017, even leading into 2018 before the Fnatic finals, where we were kind of like, I don't want to say people were ashamed of Europe. That's fair. That's too far. But people weren't like hyped on EU. We were just like, yay, EU. We're proud of our teams, but we're going to inevitably lose to Korea or China anyway.
But but then Europe made finals back to back and we're like,
one MSI.
Hold
and now,
up a second.
So that attitude is compared to the like, yeah, we're good, but we're inevitably going to lose to Korea. That I think was kind of like how everybody felt. Every region that wasn't Korea probably felt up until someone besides Korea started winning. In this case, the LPL. I like that he doesn't have that. I like that that's not there for him. I like that he is like, we're a good region. We're going to prove we're a good. And he's not even just talking about Mad Lions, because he could just talk about Mad Lions. You know, he could just be like, we're going to prove Mad's a good team. Mm-hmm. But no, he's out here. He's out here to prove for. I think
it's especially like personal for them, because the last international event they didn't even get it to groups, right? So they're like, okay, the run back. Yep. We're going to win the whole tournament. Yep. Screw you guys. We're going to prove everyone wrong. The narrative around Mad Lions is to whether they should even be at MSI, because they reverse swept the finals and Rogue was perhaps the better team, you know, and
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Let's see how they do in round 2. I'm excited for Mad Lions. I'm all aboard the Mad Lions hype train. We got to back our ADC boys.
Absolutely. Again, reminder, I say this all the time. Back up your region. Back up your team.
Yeah.
Show them you look. Like, guys, if I, as an import into this region, am cheering for Mad Lions harder than you, just like think about how sad that is.
And the Mad Lions train has a very special seat for people who have lost faith in NA. So if you guys have lost faith in NA, you can, and you're an NA fan, you can always jump aboard the EU hype train. Still technically the West. You can join us.
Still in the tournament.
I know, but just in case, just in case, the EU train always has got room for any unfaithfuls.
Wow. You're doing the LCS dirt. You're doing Sven and Mithy and Parts dirty right now.
I have faith in them. I'm faith. I'm just saying, if C9 don't make it and then NA fans have no one to cheer for, Mad Lions is a good team to cheer for.
This is why I always said this on After Hours, the other thing that we do on Caedrel's Twitch channel. I said this last night. It's like EU, NA, friends, till we face each other, back each other up. How could you not? Like, I'm still rooting for Sven, Mithy. Actually, all of that team. I'm actually just in general a Cloud9 fan in this tournament. But
the old
especially
G2 boys.
For the old G2 boys. They are good people. They are good players.
They brought a lot of success to Europe.
Yeah, they did. Not a ton internationally.
Not together, but like individually, they brought a lot of success.
Yeah, individually they did. Yes, it's very,
like Sven
very true.
on the Origin was like semis at Worlds, Perks finals,
with the
won
RNG
MSI.
Run. Oh.
Yeah, Mithy took Fnatic almost taking down top esports, right?
Yeah. So obviously, individually storied. 3 of the most successful European players.
They went to the finals of MSI, didn't they?
They did. They did. Yeah.
So yeah,
banger. Oh man, so much nostalgia actually. All right, so here's what it is. Thank you again, Kaiser and Laure, for that fantastic interview. Good insight. Hyped for Mad Lions. I hope you guys are all hyped for Mad Lions. Let's start to talk about what is coming up. We're going to do this. Are the 2 teams that we as Western pundits are backing. We're backing C9 a little bit, and we're backing Mad a lot of bit. So Mad's going to kick off their tournament. So Daewon Kia versus RNG is going to be your first game on Friday, the 14th, this coming Friday. Obviously, huge game, huge tournament implications. It is only a best of 1, but this is going to be the first taste of what very well could be MSI Finals. Mm-hmm. Game 2, Mad are going to start off with a little bit of an easier schedule. Hopefully, this is not the game that forces us to drink a shoey, as it will be Pentanet.gg versus Mad. But the game that we are looking forward to the most, not just because we are casting it, hint, hint, dear viewers. Winky face. But because this is where the gloves come off, and you know, frenemies. We're frenemies. The frenemies. This is where it comes out. Cloud9 versus Mad Lions.
The last
8 o'clock is when it is scheduled to start, according to LOL Fandom Wiki. It's going to start when it starts. It's the last game of the day. C9 versus Mad. Absolute banger. You got to give me the matchup preview.
Oh, dude, which one do you want? Top, jungle, mid, bot, support, coach?
I mean, you tell me what matters.
Okay.
Mac and cheese versus Mithy.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's crazy, dude.
Okay, so what matters to me the most? I think we got a really cool jungle matchup in the LCS's MVP jungler Blabber and rookie Elyoya, who's coming to his first international event, first split of the LEC, won the LEC.
Blabber is 2-time spring MVP, I'm pretty sure. He was spring MVP this year. He was spring MVP last year. He technically qualified them to MSA. He was rookie of the split, I think, when he was there. Blabber.
He's got a lot of his trophies. His trophies things are a bit stacked, you know, his trophy
looking
cabinet.
Like probably, it's too soon to say this. I don't follow it enough to say this, but one of the greatest, if not in the discussion for greatest North American
North American jungler, especially in recent years, right? So that's a really cool matchup. You've got like Elyoya on one side, who's looked like this consistent rock for Mad Lions, early game reliability, and him and Inspired were like the top 2 junglers coming out of the LEC after the finals. It was really hard to say who was better. Elyoya won the series, so you can argue that he was better, but still both of them were like neck and neck in terms of best jungler. So the jungle matchup for me is always interesting because obviously I'm a jungler, but then you look at bot lane, dude, and bot lane is also like, dude, you got Sven Vulcan versus Kaiser. That's also sounds crazy. I was doing a lot of tracking the pros on my stream and I was watching them face each other every now and then. I will admit Mad Lion's got the better hand every now and then, but it was a lot of jungle diff in those solo queue games, so we'll have to see what happens in the competitive games. But for me, jungle bot's always going to be the most hype matchups. I think Perks Humanoid don't really have that much history to look at.
We talked this before too, and Perks has talked about this as well. Outside of like the situations where one mid laner gets to pick Yone, it's just mid lane in general is not. It's not 2019 anymore. Like there's just no it's not Silas versus Akali every game. You know what I mean? Like the mid lane matchups just aren't that hype.
And don't get me wrong, if it was like Perks versus Caps, then there's a lot of talk about right there. But Humanoid was always that player who was like Humanoid and Larson were the ones kind of fighting each other for like who's the second or third best mid in EU when there's Caps and when there's Perks and stuff like this. So yeah, not too much history there, but definitely Perks against Europe is also just a big thing, right? The first ever international event where Perks is actually on the other side, on the other side of the ring, on the other side of the boxing match, and he's fighting for them instead of for us. So that's awesome. But yeah, I think those are the hypest matchups for me.
I think I'm just going to keep going back to bot lane. I think it's just like, I'm really hyped on Kaiser. Again, I think they were like, them stepping up is so cool. Obviously, Elyoya's rise is exciting and continuing to track. But
this is stacked, but then you think of like Damwon RNG is Canyon versus Wei, and then you've got Mad versus RNG, which I don't know when that is, but then you've got like
it's game 2 of day 2. I'm glad you brought it up because or game 3 of day 2. So that is Saturday. That is the third game is Mad versus RNG.
Because then you've got Elyoya versus Wei, and then I want to look at like Cloud9 versus RNG because you only got Perks versus RNG, right? So all of these best of ones. I'm glad we've got 2 of these double round robins, not just one single elimination kind of. The double round robin. I think we have got arguably a clear top 4 coming into this group stage, where you would argue that Pentanet and PSG are almost like the 5th and 6th spots. You would argue, but we need to see it happen. And then when it gets to semis, we got some banger best of 5s coming, dude. I'm just pumped for this round 2 because round 1 everyone was like Resident Sleeper, like why are these teams even here? They obviously that was their worlds, right? These minor regions, this was their time to shine against the top teams. All the hard work, the prep, the fans wanted to see it, but now we get into the real deal. We're into the top regions against each other.
The Rumble stage.
The Rumble.
I can't say that. That's trademark.
Let's
get ready to scrap in the Rumble stage. If you see what I'm
ready to
doing
rumble,
there.
Let's go.
So anyway, we're gonna wrap up here, but a couple things to note, a couple things to be excited about. I think the schedule is out now if you guys want to check it out. Obviously, cheer for Mad. I think cheer for the EU players everywhere, and I also think. Back up Oceania. Like raise your quals. When you don't have stakes in a game, when you're not sure who to side with, when it's not a mad game, when it's not a C9.
When it's Pentanet versus RNG.
Raise those koalas. You know what I mean? Like the LCO have overcome. It is such an insane story that they have made it here, that they are doing it. And I think they back them up 100%.
Here's the take. The LCO was sandbagging the first part of groups. And then now when they get to round 2, they're going to stomp down on an RNG.
Clip it and...
You heard it here first.
Ship it. There it is. Unleashed. Pabu. Unleashed.
Yep. The chains are off.
The hair changes colors every time he wins.
Yeah, round 2 it goes like red. And then in the semifinals it goes like blue. Pabu. And in the finals it goes Ultra Instinct, so it's like silvery blue.
I can always tell when you've like your nerdiness comes out in little moments, that was one of them. My God.
I know Dragon Ball Z like the back of my hand.
Secret weeb, you.
Okay. Just Dragon Ball. Okay, a couple others too.
Yeah, okay, so recap. If you're a Mad Lions fan, Mad versus PG, Pentanet GG is the first game. Cloud9 versus Mad, obviously the more important game on day 1. Day 2, they get the chance to play against RNG and PSG. You've seen the PSG game before, but we'll watch it a few more times.
Game 4 is Cloud9 RNG, right?
Game 4 on our first day is Cloud9 versus RNG. We're going to be casting the back half of day 1. If you want more Caedrel Drakos in your life, you can find it on Caedrel's Twitch channel, where we do some recaps at the end of the day, MSI After Hours, here on EUphoria, or in the final 3 games of day 1, that is Friday the 14th, RNG versus Cloud9, PSG versus Pentanet GG, C9 versus Mad. We're going to be casting all 3. It's going to be a banger. So,
the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
This has been EUphoria MSI episode 2. We'll be checking in with you guys kind of after this going. We're hoping maybe to get some interviews with the help of our dear friend Ashley Kang with some of the Korean players, so you guys can get some insight into. We know what Mad Lions think about their shots at the tournament. Maybe we can find out what Day One Kia think about Mad Lions.
And we can tell Mad Lions.
Put it all together.
We can be like secret agents.
We've had a lot of Red Bull, which is why we're so thrilled. You guys can get Red Bull too. Shout out to Red Bull. But there you go. That's Caedrel's playing us off. This has been episode 2, the MSI episode of EUphoria. More coming back in the future. We'll keep you guys posted about future episodes. Otherwise, tune in Friday. MSI Rumble stage begins. We'll see you there.